God, Mum, you're not on Tinder.
Most people call it plenty of fuck.
We're going to make you a profile.
The Playing with Matches podcast, where women talk about their experiences dating online. Hello, and welcome to Playing with Matches, the podcast where women talk about their online dating experiences. I'm Mark, and I'm not a woman. I'm just here to learn. That was the original idea, and if you've been listening all along, then I hope you've got something from it too. So, if I asked you to pick a random number between 1 and 20, what would it be? Yes, I am actually asking you. I'll give you a second. Well, according to research done by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, 1 in 5 of you will have picked the number 17. It's the most commonly picked random number. There's a few theories as to why this is the case. People rarely pick even numbers. They usually won't pick 1 or 20. And 3, 7 and 13 have superstitious connections and a few other reasons. But what did you pick? Well, in a way, you've picked 17 anyway, because that's where we are. We've made it to episode 17. You know what I mean? Some other quick facts about the number 17. Historically, Romans associated the number 17 with death. Its Roman numerals are XVI, and if you rearrange them, you get the word vixi, and vixi means I have lived in Latin, which is often interpreted as a reference to death. Apparently, as a result, many Italians avoid using the number 17 in their daily lives. For instance, in important situations such as buying a house or getting married. I don't know how true that really is. It seems like quite a convoluted way to get there. Senza offesa. That's my terrible Italian for no offence. And the Romans' possibly irrational fear of the number 17 could also be called heptadecaphobia, which is a Greek word. So there. A haiku is made of 17 syllables. The first line has 5, the second line has 7, and 5 in the third. And that was a haiku, in case you missed it. I think that's enough about 17, except to say that our number 17 is all about Danielle. This is a brand new interview that took place just last week. She was interviewed by Elle Berry, so thank you very much for that, Elle. Danielle is a musician and a yoga instructor from Wales. She's written a song about online dating called Girl from Tinder, and there's a link to that in the show notes. Fitness is very important to her and a partner, as we'll hear. She also introduces us to a dating site that was new to me called Muddy Matches, which calls itself the UK's original home of country life dating. And she's got some great stories, so I'd best let her get on with it then. I'll be back at the end for some Penderyn whiskey and Bala Brief. Until then, take it away, Danielle.
I'm Danielle, and I was online dating. I think I started when I was 50 years of age, because I'd come out of a long-term relationship on and off, 6-7 years maybe. So I have some experiences and some stories about that period of time. That time was an interesting time for me. I think the first thing is to say to women listening out there, in my experience of online dating, there's always this conversation about, oh, is that site a better site than that site? Or that site seems more, respectable and blah, blah, blah. And that site's only in it for that. But I would say in my experience that they're all the same. Even the more reputable sites, even Guardian Soulmates, you think, oh gosh, I'm not going to get any idiots on there, or I'm not going to get somebody who just wants one night stands on there, but you do. And I think it's just a question of they're all the same, and there's always good people and there's always time wasters on each site, because I think everyone's the same. We're all looking for whatever we're looking for. Even someone who's catfishing or whatever they're doing, they're going to change tack and go on another site just because it ups their game, doesn't it? Because they're that type of person. They want to get their thrills from it. They're on everything. So it's a question of having lots of time, patience, and to be in the right mindset. Because if you're not going through a good period of your life, let's say, you've just lost your job, or you've just come out of a relationship that upset you, it's not the right time. You need to be strong. You need to be confident about yourself, and you need to feel secure about yourself. Then you see it as sport. I think that's the fairest way I can say. So whatever the knockbacks are, you think, I can handle that. That's really my overall opinion of it. So right now, I'm not. It's not that I'd never again. But at the moment, well, my life's busy and I haven't got time just to be messaging people, and it does require a lot of time. Going right back to one of my first experiences, there was somebody that I thought I connected with, and he was on Muddy Matches. I remember that one because I went on that because I thought, oh, Muddy Matches, farmers, people that like animals, I thought, oh, that would be good for me. Because a vet recommended it to me. My vet said, oh, go on that. You get people more your type on there. Anyway, so no. But this chap, I did connect with him and we messaged for quite a while, in-depth messages, very kind of getting to the core of our souls, writing, all that kind of stuff. I totally trusted him. He just gave me a good vibe. And we spoke to each other on the phone and he sounded great and I knew about his life and, he was separated, obviously. He had a daughter from his first marriage. He wasn't on a second marriage or anything. He was in another relationship following his marriage and that had broken up. So we were just kind of talking about our shared experiences of heartbreak. Anyway, eventually, to cut to the chase, we arranged to meet. And I can't remember where he lived. I think he lived in Devon. I'm in Wales. So we arranged to meet in Bath for a day out because we thought it'd be a nice day out. And he even messaged me and said, look, there's this place, National Trust place. We could go to the tea rooms there and and hop. And I went, oh, that sounds perfect. Yeah, let's do that. So very excited to meet him. I knew what he looked like. I knew what his voice sounded like. And I thought, yep, this guy's going to be interesting. And the morning of the meeting, I literally showered, put my makeup on, got the dog sitter ready if I was going to be out too long, all that nonsense. And then he phoned me and he said, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm glad I caught you before you got on the train because I bumped into my ex last night and it's all back on. So that was really a wake-up call because that was one of my first experiences and I thought, oh, okay, of course it's not going to be that easy. Of course it's not. So there you go. So that was the first one. And then there were a few dates that were ordinary people that were fine, but we just weren't suited. In between that, lots of messages, lots of people wasting your time, wanting casuals or not. Nothing wrong with casuals. Again, be in the right space for it. If that's what you want, go for it, but just be in the right headspace for it. And then a guy who we were on a date, I think it was like our third date. So we were out somewhere. But I nipped to the loo. And because I'd been with him a few times, I thought, well, I trust this guy. So I left my phone on the table. I was only just nipping to the loos. And when I came back, he seemed a bit quiet. I said, you okay? Yeah. So we carried on the night. And then I went home. And then I didn't hear from him for about 2 days. So I thought, oh my goodness, what's happened? So I messaged him. I said, you okay? Everything okay? Not heard from you. And then I had just a torrent of abuse saying that he'd looked at my phone and that he'd read all my messages. So, obviously, you're seeing other guys. That was his. I said, well, I have been seeing other guys because that's the nature of this, but you're my third date and I really like you. Well, I did really like you, but now I think you've blown it. And then he said, oh, well, he said, I'm a functioning alcoholic anyway. So good luck, beautiful. He made me angry, actually. He was somebody I was quite liking. And I thought, actually, I was thinking, because this is how the kids say it these days, isn't it? I was thinking, maybe when on our next date, maybe we should talk about being a bit exclusive. Meaning, we won't see anyone else. We won't date. We'll just stick with each other for now. So I was thinking about that. But I thought, maybe on the next date, let's see how he is and we can talk about that. Well, obviously not now. So that was that one. There was another weirdo one that lived in my town and we met for a date. There's nothing wrong with him. He was all right, but I really wasn't into him. But I could tell from the very moment we sat down, he was into me. That's enough to put you off. You don't want them too keen. You want them to, be attracted to you, but you don't. So he was like, and he wanted to hold my hand at the table, like straight away. I said, I'm, nice to meet you and everything, but I don't think this one is going to work. And he said, oh, are you sure about that? Yes, I'm sure. And that was that, or I thought that was that. And then I was coming out of Cardiff city centre to catch the train home. And he was coming from home, my hometown, into Cardiff city centre. So he was about to go through the barrier as I was about to go the opposite way through the other barrier. So he saw me, clocked me. And then I saw him and I thought, oh God, I'll just pretend I haven't seen him. So I carried on walking to my platform. Next thing, he's on the platform with me. And I thought, you've done a U-turn. And of course, then I get on the train and he sits by me and, oh God, it was the most uncomfortable 30 minutes ever. So I just had to be polite and talk to him. He was all right, but I could see then he was not a full deck. I'm sorry to use that expression, but he just wasn't. There's something strange about him. Not maybe harmful, but just something a bit not all there. So, and then, of course, what's going to happen when we get to the other end? We're going to get off at the same stop, and I don't want him to follow me home. I don't want him to know where I live. So that was a bit worrying. But he went one way and I went the other. But I kept looking back, and I even stalled on a couple of corners just to make sure he wasn't anywhere behind me. So that was that. So thankfully, I didn't hear from him again. And then I think the ghosting is a common one, isn't it? Ghosting. There's two things they do. They love bomb. And I learned that phrase from my niece because she's young. Love bombing, where they give you, give you loads of messages, all the niceties, all the compliments, great to talk to you again. And I have had a couple of these, I think, but not so many, thankfully. But my niece has, God bless her. And they're just on to you all the time. And you think, oh, this guy's really into me. And then they just ghost, gone. And that's called love bombing, apparently. Perhaps they have met someone else, but still, it's a bit crap, isn't it? I mean, at least that guy told me he'd met his ex, and at least he told me. Coming back to that guy, he said, shall I send you flowers? He said, I don't know what to do. I feel very bad I'm letting you down. Shall I send you some flowers? No, I don't want your flowers. Ghosting happens all the time. And again, is it that they're meeting? They're probably having, loads of people that they're messaging at the same time. And that's all right, because that's what it's about. You do message lots of people. That's why I say you've got to have lots of time on your hands and be patient. But the ghosting is a weird one. So they obviously, they're messaging you and they're messaging someone else or 3 or 4. And then they obviously get more into the other person for whatever reasons. And then they just disappear. So, which is something I've never done. Even if I'm not into that person, I will say, sorry, I've connected with someone else, so I want to explore that. I've always been honest like that. So why they can't say that? But of course, they want to keep their options open, don't they? Another one is an interesting thing about dating. I'm guessing now there's probably sites dedicated to disability dating and whatever. But there wasn't, I didn't know about them when I was doing it, and there probably weren't that many anyway. So there was a chap that I was messaging. He was messaging me. He had a full-time job. He was a journalist, actually, a sports journalist. So I thought, oh, great, we're going to have things in common, because it's really important for me that my partner or whatever is into some kind of activity. It doesn't have to be into my activity, but just be fit, because otherwise, I can't live with somebody or be with somebody that doesn't look after their body. So I always ask those questions. What are they into? Are they fit? Do they go to the gym? I have to ask those questions. And this chap said he was, and he went swimming, and he was a sports journalist. I thought, he's bound to be into something. But then he said, I find it really helps with my condition, and I can't remember what the illness was, but he said, I walk with a limp. And I said, oh, is it quite noticeable, this limp? And he said, yes, it is. It's because and I can't remember the condition. Something like cerebral palsy maybe, or something like that. I don't know. And then, of course, I just thought, could I handle that? And I just thought, I'm not really into you enough to want to go further with that or explore it. Plus, he lived a long way away. He lived like Scotland. If he lived a bit nearer, I probably would have met him at least and had a coffee and just, and he had a funny voice. There's nothing wrong with his voice, but voices are a big thing, aren't they? As I said, I wasn't into him enough. If I was really, really into him, if I'd met him and I could, but some disabled people will declare their disability straight away and some people won't. And I understand why they don't. But again, that's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? That's why you've got to keep asking lots of questions. and ask for lots of pictures. If they're not afraid to FaceTime you straight away, that's great. That's a good sign. And then, what's with posting pictures of you like 20 years ago? What's that all about? And apparently, according to my male friends, girls are the worst at it. Because, we're so vain. Or they're putting these filters on now that, everyone can do. Couldn't do it when I was doing it. But thank goodness, not that I would have anyway. But, what's that? What can you gain from that? You've got to meet them sooner or later. And it must be terrible when they look at you disappointed. But the age thing, I did have the age thing a few times as well. They put up pictures of them like when they were students. Now they're in their 40s or 50s. What's that about? And in between that, I did have some nice connections with people, and I had one decent relationship that lasted for about 18 months. And he was a really nice guy. Nothing wrong with him at all. We were just, in the end, we were just too different. But I did explore that. And we're still in touch now. We're still friends. So, they are out there. I've used Tinder. I've used Bumble, because apparently that's changing, but it's still the same. What I liked about it is that the guys can't message the girls. It's only the girls that can message the boys. Something like that, isn't it? So I've used Tinder, Bumble, plenty of Fish, which sounds terrible, doesn't it? But that's where I had my relationship. So he was a nice guy. Guardian Soulmates, Fitness Singles, Muddy Matches. So quite a few. Match.com I've used as well. I've used quite a few really, haven't I, thinking about it? I didn't get round to using Hinge. That's a newer one, isn't it? And my niece tells me that that's what they're all using now. I think Hinge has become the new Tinder. And there's another one I used called eHarmony. To come back to the sites, and are they different from each other? Would you get... are you likely to get more sincere people if they have a paid account? I'm not sure that you do, actually, in my experience, because, as I said, my nice relationship came from a free one. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I'd paid, I can't remember what I'd paid for, but I definitely paid for a few sites. And I would say no, because the thing is, people are tight and blokes are tight. And if they can get away with it being free, they will. Now, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not to say they'll be a bad boyfriend. They just want to try and get a freebie. And we're all a bit like that. So that's what I learned. And then the ones that pay, for the same reason. They pay because they think, I'm going to have some fun with this. And they've obviously got some spare cash. I thought when I went on the paid ones, I would get a better class of person, but I don't know. I was proved wrong. The difference is when you don't pay for it, you've just got more people to sieve through. But at least when you pay for it, there's a little less numbers. But no, definitely, I wouldn't say that. Sadly, I'd like to say that, but not necessarily, no. It's depressing, isn't it? I find online dating a good thing, generally. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Like I said, I would never say never doing it again, a right period in my life. It does seem the way forward because I think that so many of us now spend so much time at home. We're working at home. We're getting dogs that we've never had before. I've always had dogs, but, in lockdown, everybody got a dog. And I think people are busy, aren't they? They're busy, so going out. And that's another thing, isn't it? If you do it the old-fashioned way, it's going to cost. You're going to go out and you're going to pay for coffees, you're going to pay for drinks, you're going to pay for, how many dates are you going to go on before you think, this person's right for me? Or, all right, you can go for walks and stuff, but there's only so much of that you can do. I would say it is the way forward, but to not dismiss the chance of meeting somebody in real life, because that's always the best if you can. But if you can't, what else are you to do? What else are you to do? Especially when you get older. My goodness, I'm 59. I'm not going out every weekend. My friends don't even want to go out because they're all in families and stuff. So I met a chap. Well, I didn't meet him, thankfully. But we started messaging and it turned out he was in a relationship. So I said, well, at least you told me, so thanks and no thanks. But he kept messaging me. He wouldn't stop until I said, look, this isn't going to work and I'm not going to meet you. That's it. Please, can you kindly just stop messaging me now? And then he started, I can't remember what he said. He just started saying some not nice things. He said about where I lived, that I was from the wrong side of town. And I would expect you to be like that because you live in wherever you live. And I thought, really? Yeah, he was a complete idiot. But again, he did stop eventually. And thankfully, I deleted his number and that was that. God, it's funny when I get reminded of these experiences. Here's an interesting story. This is a very interesting story, actually. There was another chap I met on Fitness Singles, and he was a bodyguard. He was security. Now, this was the truth, actually. It was the absolute truth. He wasn't, spinning me a yarn. I'm being careful what I say because I don't want to reveal who he is. And this was years ago. I could say he's a bodyguard abroad. We Skyped. We were Skyping, and a bit of an experimental time I was going through then, I would say. So, it was Skype, so it was pretty harmless, body parts flashing and stuff like that. This was a long time ago. But, I kind of trusted him. It was quite funny. But you know what? This is the funny thing about this story. He wasn't harmful to me, and he wasn't abusive to me, but we had this relationship online where we just abused each other, where we just kind of swear at each other and say, fuck off, and stop bothering, now piss off. And I quite liked it. It was a vent for me, and I knew it was harmless because he was over where he was. And I think he probably appreciated it from me. Anyway, so we stopped. For whatever reasons, we stopped, and I probably went on to somebody else at that point. I think I probably had my relationship. Anyway, he kept in touch sporadically and just to say, how are you? and he said, I've been getting into yoga lately. He knew I was a yoga teacher. I've been getting into yoga lately. Oh my God, isn't it amazing? I've been going, so he was going on all these retreats on his own, abroad, and he's meeting all these lovely yogis and these lovely yoga teachers and it was like a changed person. And he was saying, I feel terrible now because I realised you must be such a lovely person because you're like all those other lovely ladies I met. And we said some terrible things to each other. And I was laughing. I said, it's quite funny. I said, I'm really glad that you're into yoga. That's brilliant. He said, I am. I said, on the thoughts of retreats, I said, I'm running one. I'm running one in Spain. I said, you'd be very welcome to come. And he went, oh, yeah, I think I might. And then I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I'm running a retreat with my students and this guy's going to come over. Oh my God. Anyway, sure enough, he paid his deposit, booked his flight. I thought, oh God. Anyway, he was there, and it was funny because I met everybody in the airport. So I meet all my students in the airport and we all gather there and meet. And he had already got there, and I saw him. This was the first time we met in the flesh, by the way. I saw him talking to two of my regular yoga students, lovely people, the couple. And I thought, oh my God, he's having a coffee with, oh my God, this is strange. And he smiled at me, he gave me a lovely smile. And the minute I walked over, I thought, I knew you were a softie at heart. I knew it. So he had this kind of bravado, which I think I could see through, which is why I kind of messaged him. It was all right. Anyway, he was lovely. He was an absolute top bloke. And everyone on the retreat was saying, oh, isn't he a great guy? Sadly, he had to leave the retreat early because one of his colleagues died. He got blown up in a car, in a bomb outside a shopping mall. And this colleague was from the Philippines, I think. The nature of those guys, they wouldn't dream of not going to the colleague's funeral. So he went from Spain over to the Philippines to meet the chap's family and basically be at the funeral. So that told me a lot about him. He was a good egg. And after that, we kept in touch. He came over to my hometown and visited me once, and we went for a walk and we had a cup of tea. And then we kind of, I was thinking, maybe I could really quite like this chap, and we've known each other for long enough. And I think he was thinking the same. But we've kind of, and we did say hello every now and again, but we've kind of drifted now. But he's the type of person I wouldn't be surprised if he just contacted me out of the blue just to see how I was. Nothing happened between us. And then we just kept in touch. And I think with him, it was while he was doing his job. I think he had something like 3 years to go, 4 years possibly, before he'd retire. And being over there for half the year, he just didn't think it was fair or worth getting involved in anything serious. So, which was, I understood that. And I wasn't sure if I did want anything serious with him anyway, but he did. I think he became a good friend. And so we messaged quite a lot. And we laughed about those early days. The last I heard, he was going on some boat thing. He was retiring and then going on some boat. He was going to learn to sail. I think we were better off as friends, really, in the end. But you never say never. I never say never with him. And that was how I went out, really. I went out of online dating on his experience because I thought that's a nice happy ending. I've got a friend and her sister, and it's really sad. She's just had her 50th birthday. And she's single, and she's an attractive girl, and she's intelligent, she's funny, and she hasn't been out with anyone for donkey's years because she's another one. She likes her own time and spends a lot of time on her own, and she's got a couple of friends, but she will not go online dating because she is terrified. She's terrified that it's all going to be a bad experience for her. She's more scared that she's going to meet a murderer or a rapist. And I find that amazing, really, that she can think like that. Because obviously the bad people are out there, and I'm trying to think of her as I'm thinking of a message. My message would be just be pragmatic about it. It's not a bad thing. How else are people going to connect? And you can meet some really great people and connect with people. You can make friends. Online sites aren't just about relationships. They're about making friendships as well. And I love that. So, if you are a bit lonely, you can make some friends. And I think that's fantastic. It's very positive. Take it all with a pinch of salt. Be very honest about what you want, who you are, and really it is just a game of numbers.
So that was Danielle. And what did we learn? Well, according to Danielle, most of the sites are really the same. Good and bad people on all of them. We learned that you should be strong or confident before you think about using them. Certainly not feeling vulnerable and insecure. That's good advice. It's just a game of numbers and patience, she says. And even if you don't meet the love of your life, you may just find some friends in the process. We learned that maybe you shouldn't leave your phone alone with someone you just met, or make sure it's locked. Although it did, of course, enable Danielle to find out that particular guy was definitely not the right one for her. Thank you so much to Danielle for her time and to Elle for conducting the interview and editing it. And if you'd like to be on the show or have any thoughts to share on online dating, then you can email us at playingwithmatchespodcast@gmail.com. There's a link to that in the show notes, as well as a link for you to text us directly. As I said at the beginning, there's also a link to Danielle's song about online dating, Girl from Tinder, so do check that out. We'll be conducting some new interviews soon, so let us know right away if you'd like to take part. And I think that just about wraps us up for this week. So until next time, good luck out there and on there. Bye-bye.